All right, folks, welcome back to the shop. Today is a day that a lot of people have been waiting for, including myself. We've got 3-inch 28 gauge able to be tested now. Found a gentleman, actually, he only lives about an hour from me. Bruce's Big Bore testing. He tests ammunition. But anyway, he does the 3-inch 28 gauge stuff. So now we get to pass on some 3-inch 28 gauge to you guys. So today, to start off with, we're going to do a 3-inch 1 16 ounce bismuth load. I know bismuth is super popular right now. It's it's effective, and it's really expensive to buy these loads from factory manufacturers. Matter of fact, I've got a box of Winchester back here, and they were generous enough to give you 15 rounds, and I think it was about 40 bucks for those 15 rounds. Don't quote me on that. I'm doing a what's in the box on it, so I'll get a little bit deeper into that. So this isn't about Winchester. This is about us, what we can produce on our own. So yes, a 3-inch 1 16 ounce of number 5 bismuth is what I've got. I actually use this load in Texas. I've got a little bit of footage of that. I'm not a professional photographer by any means, and when I say that, I'm talking about a GoPro sitting on a stand behind us. So that's about as good as it got. Not good at editing and all that kind of stuff. So I may put some of that footage in there, may not. It's probably just terrible, but some people like to see that stuff. But anyway, we're gonna come on this side of the bench. We're gonna put this load together. I went out to the farm, patterned this at 40 yards. I think that's obviously for number 5 bismuth, that's acceptable or even expected, right? 40 yards. So this will be a great round for, well, number 1, you got to have a 3-inch 28 gauge, but number 2, it would be good for obviously waterfowl, but even upland like pheasant. Man, this thing will be great for that. So let's get you on this side of the bench. We'll load them up, shoot them, and then we'll review everything. Come on. So first off, let me apologize. My bench is a disaster. That is a fact. I've got every kind of tool in the world that you could imagine on here, and I just need to straighten up. But anyway, all right, let's get into the components of this load. So this one is going to have a new 3-inch Fiocchi hole. That's what I tested it with. We're going to have data coming out with Cheddite holes also. But anyway, 3-inch new hole. And then the powder we're using in this load is Little Gun. Very popular, very available. Right now it's about $35, $36 a pound. So it's not super expensive. It's a lot less than, or a lot more than it was. See that? $25.99. Crazy. All right. So Little Gun, the wad is an HV28 wad. Okay. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this in a second when we get into that point. And then, of course, shot is number 5. This happens to be Boss Bismuth. Obviously, it's copper plated. It's not bad stuff. It's all brittle. This is actually, this is BPI's bismuth right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's actually very nice stuff. I think it is compared to the Boss. It seems to retain itself a little bit better as far as fracturing. I don't know. I know the other day when I patterned this, I had bismuth shards on top of my target where it had either bounced up and came down. I don't know how it got there, but there was like half pellets on top of the 2x4. But anyway, number 5 bismuth, Little Gun, HV28 wad, Fiocchi holes. All right. for YouTube purposes, I have already put a couple of wads in a couple of these. Some of these I have them charged with powder already. I cannot go through the full production process of ammunition. So, new haul, it's very simple. These wads, literally, they just slide in there. You don't even have to really, do a whole lot. I like to tap them down, give them a little pressure. Okay, now, this particular load is 1 ounce and a 1/16. So that is 465 grains, basically, right? So you're going to get there pretty quick. See, there's 472, 462, 465. So 465. So we're just going to dump him in. A couple of taps. You don't even really need to tap that. This isn't enough shot. Actually, you could probably put more shot in this shell. Matter of fact, I know you can. I know I could probably get 1 1/4 ounce in here with some wad modifications like we did with the 2 3/4 28. But I think we're getting to the point with bismuth where you just don't need any more. So this is what this is looking like. So we'll go over to the 600, give it a little push, hold him for, 8 or 10 seconds, slide him over and finish him off. There you go. Bob's your uncle. Got you a nice little taper, nice little crimp, right? Not too deep, not too shallow. So let's go ahead and do another one. Got the wad in there. 465. Look, if you guys are looking for this data, I have this data along with some other 3-inch stuff on my website, bullet225ho.com. I don't ask a ton of money for it. And it helps develop more loads, right? So there's 465. Again, setting in there, very deep, plenty of room if you want to roll crimp that. That's something else too that I'm starting to get a lot of emails. Hey man, can I roll crimp this data? And yeah, you can. It's just you got to understand that velocity is going to be down a little bit, pressure is going to be down a little bit. There we go, a nice 3-inch. It's wild, a 3-inch 28 gauge. But anyway, if you roll crimp, velocity is going to be down, pressure is going to be down. I would definitely shoot over a chronograph to see if you're getting ultra low velocities, because it's possible. And you don't want to go too low. I'll just tell you that all this stuff is tested, with fold crimps, and that's what they're designed for. All right. Can't get much easier than that, guys. I mean, it's a straight wad shot. The new hulls load up nicely. We've gone through a new hull loading video. And if you didn't see that one, you can go back and watch it, or guess what? Pretty much the same as what we're doing right here. There you go. Nice little crimp. Look, it's not an OMV smart box, guys, but hey man, I don't got $800 to sling at that kind of stuff. Let's go shoot them and see what they look like. Number 5, bismuth, cylinder choke, 40 yards. 3-inch, number 5, bismuth, improved cylinder choke, 40 yards. 3-inch, number 5, bismuth, 1 1/16 ounce, 40 yards, modified choke. All right, 1 1/16 ounce, 3-inch, 5 bismuth, 40 yards, improved modified choke. One 1/16 ounce, number 5 bismuth, 3-inch 28 gauge, full choke, 40 yards. All right, so here we go. Number 5 bismuth, 1 1/16 ounce, 40 yards, Super Black Eagle. Those are all factory stock chokes that came with the gun. And as some people lately say, we don't even need to do this. We can just stick a choke in there and go kill birds. I don't know why patterning all of a sudden has become unpopular, but for some folks, well, patterning's not needed anymore. So anyway, I did cylinder through full choke. This is a 30-inch circle, and all of the little spots, hopefully you can see them, those are where the pellets hit, right? Now, I do cylinder choke. It's really just a wasted kind of shot, but if anything, it shows us that, man, there's really not a whole lot there, right? There's 86 pellets. I didn't even bother counting how many were in the circle because it's kind of a moot point. If you're hunting in real tight, you know, a creek or something that is only 15 yards wide, cylinder may have a place, right? It's just not at 40 yards. So let's look at improved cylinder. All right, I'm not even going to say it, folks. You already know what I'm about to say. It's amazing what we'll do. Improved cylinder. We've got 146 pellets on the board. 116. That's how many are in the circle. That's it's actually really good. 116. It's pretty even. Little splotchy in places, but look, I mean, this is for waterfowl or even, you know, upland game, pheasants. There's not much getting through that, right? And we don't see a ton of stuff out here. We don't see a ton of stuff on the outside. I mean, this is kind of where the shot is, 146 pellets right there. So I think it's impressive for improved cylinder at 40 yards. Let's take a look at modified. Okay, modified choke. So we may have missed a little left here. The only reason I say that is because I felt like I was looking a little more to the left when I touched the trigger off on this shot. But there's still 150 pellets on the paper. There's 117 in the circle. So we went from improved cylinder to modified the same distance, and we only gained 1 pellet inside the circle. So it's pretty crazy. The pattern is actually a little bit more splotchy. But again, the next shot, it could even out. Who knows? One thing I did notice when I was marking these, and I may go back and look, it's almost like there's a vertical, almost like a split here, and there would be a split on the other side. You see that? And then an opening. And I'm almost thinking it's where that wad, that HV28 wad is split. And I know for the lead shot, I usually cut another slit in them, and I did not do that with these. I may have to, you know, revisit this. But again, for modified choke, it's not bad. I would expect modified, improved modified, and full to just get better and better and better. So let's take a look at improved modified. Okay, improved modified. This is kind of wild. Modified had 150 on the target and 111 or 112. This one's only got 145 on the whole paper, but there's 120 inside there. And of course, now we can see that improved modified core. Man, it's tight right in here. Again, not a whole lot getting through that. If you put this pattern on what you're trying to kill, you're probably going to do okay. So we got 120 pellets inside the 30-inch circle. Yes, there is a little open spot. And again, it's almost like if you look here and you look there, man, it makes me think of that two slit wide. So let's look at full and see if we could even get better. Okay, full choke. Now we're back up to 149 pellets on the pattern. So we've got more pellets on the pattern, but there's only 112 inside the circle. That's back down to improved cylinder levels. So we got a real nice tight core, but good gosh, see that slit and see this kind of deal up here, like directly across? Maybe I'm just seeing stuff, I don't know, but there is a big hole here, here, here. It's almost like bismuth. It doesn't like choke because it fractures with more choke, but you gotta have choke to get it all in there. That's what drives me crazy about bismuth. The crazy thing about it though is the stuff works great. I mean, if you can get a bird in this stuff, I mean, it's lethal. It's deadly. So that's full choke. I tell you what, I actually used this load when I went to Texas. I've got a few minutes, maybe not even a few minutes, maybe like a minute of footage that we'll take a look at, and then we'll go to the bench and we'll finish up. Shot one. You got 2 out of 3. I didn't even shoot. What are you shooting? Number 5 bismuth. 3-inch. Don't move. Got him. There he is. You can download it to your computer. All right, folks. Well, that's about as crappy as GoPro hunts I've ever seen. But I mean, there's some birds that fell, and look, me and him had a good time. The battery in that particular camera died, like, I don't know, after the second or third group of birds. It was 19 degrees that morning. It was pretty cold. But anyway, we had a good time. We ended up jumping some tanks after that one, and we got a good limit that day. The next couple days, don't even want to talk about those. It was bad. But anyway, bismuth. God, y'all know it drives me crazy. And I can't believe I even loaded up a box of it to go hunting with, but I did, because I just wanted to shoot it, you know. And it killed birds. Found some pellets inside the skin, just under the skin. Found a couple of shards of pellets, broken up pellets under the skin, or all that kind of stuff. We ate these birds. Actually, no, I didn't eat these birds. We ate birds that we shot the day before that night, and there was no shot in those. Those are all steel shot birds. I'll do that video coming up. But so bismuth is wild. Here's what's crazy about this load. It's 1 ounce and a 16th. There should be about 211 pellets in this load. And matter of fact, there shouldn't be. There is, right? I mean, I put it in there. I know how much shot was in there. So that's a good positive about reloading. You know what you started with. This stuff is running about 1,275 feet per second, so it's not mega fast. I didn't want it to be mega fast. Matter of fact, there's probably a bunch of room. If you want it to go real fast, you could make it go real fast. And you could slow it down a little bit too. Now, one thing that this isn't is it's not a buffered load. I'm sure that we could get a much better result from buffering this load. I got much better results putting buffer in the 7/8 28 gauge 2 3/4 inch load. And of course that data is available too on my website. I've got buffered data and non-buffered data. Buffer is just a pain in the butt to put in these loads unless you've got some type of vibrating table or apparatus. You can buy them, and I'm thinking about buying one, but I'm trying to find a way to engineer one myself with something around the house that vibrates, that I can shake that buffer down in the hull. But anyway, I'll probably get to a buffer version of this, and maybe with a little bit different powder. The 3-inch 28 gauge, from what I'm seeing so far, loves little gun powder. So if you've got a 3-inch 28 gauge and you want to work up some loads or put some loads together that I'm going to be working on, go ahead and buy some, because right now I'm finding that that's the powder that it's going to like. Accurate number 9, it's going to like that too. I really haven't messed with any 296 or H110 or anything like that. There's some folks that are working around with Bitavori N110 in some 3-inch stuff, much lighter payloads. It's kind of not my gig. If you look at my stuff, you know that I am definitely a heavy for caliber type guy. Even though if it's steel, look, I'm putting the most steel I can in there. And if I'm putting, TSS, whatever, I like a little heavy load. I don't really mess around with lighter loads. If that was the case, then we'd do 2 3/4, or we'll go back down to 410. But anyway, kind of neat how we didn't see a big, huge amount of progression between improved cylinder and full choke. I mean, the core got a bit tighter as we got into modified, improved modified, but it was wild how improved cylinder actually put a pattern like that. And again, I think it's due to less restriction. Some of these pellets don't fracture on the way out. Oh, and that's what I was getting ready to say earlier. So this thing has 211 pellets in it. I know it's 40 yards. 40 yards is a long way. By the way, if you don't think it's a long way, go out to your yard, go out somewhere and pick out what you think is 40 yards away, and then go walk to it and see how many steps it really is. You might find out it's only about 30 or 28, right? So 40 yards, we only getting like 150 pellets on the whole entire 40 by 40 target is all we're getting. Where in the heck are those other pellets? I have seriously come to think that with bismuth, we're losing, and I don't know a number and I don't know a percentage, but it's a certain percentage. We're losing a certain percentage on ignition. When that thing lights off and it crushes down, I'm pretty sure we're losing a certain amount of these pellets that will never ever make it to the target. Now, one thing I will say, these particular patterns, until I got to improve, modified, and full, I didn't have as much what I would call shards or slivers. And it could be because I kept this thing below 1,300 feet per second, because in the past, when I had a lot of shards, was when I had the non-buffered 2 3/4 inch load that I developed last year. I still had a good bit of shards on that one because it was 1,300, 1,330. And then the Boss stuff, when I shot it, man, I was literally angry marking those patterns because it was just like littered with little bitty tiny holes. So, but this one did not have that. There was almost everything was a nice clean hole, right? So when was saying that, it doesn't make me think that this Boss shot is bad, because that's the same shot that was shot out of their ammo, but it's how it came out of the gun as far as pressures, initial light off. And by the way, the wad's exactly the same. Now, I understand this year they've changed, they're doing their own proprietary wad or whatever. That's fine. But the Boss Legacy that I tested last year used the same exact wad. I mean, you can duplicate that shell any way you want. You shouldn't. By the way, it lights off, but you can. The components are available to us. They even make the shot available. So when it comes to bismuth, if you're getting busted up shot and all this kind of stuff, look at maybe slowing your powder down, less restrictive choke. So I used the modified choke out in Texas. Looking back on this now, the way that we had birds coming in, I probably could have gotten away with improved cylinder, no problem, right? But modified did okay for me. I'm not going to say it was terrible, but improved cylinder might not have been bad either. I just never would have dreamed it looked like that. But anyway, so that's the 3-inch one and a 16th ounce bismuth. Be on the lookout for a buffered version of this. Like I said, if I can get that little vibrating thing worked out so I can get buffer to go in here, I'll probably get those sent off for testing. And so what's coming down the pipe, gonna be a lot of 3-inch 28 gauge, folks. I'll probably do basically a larger version of everything else that we've done in 2 3/4, because guess what? That's what the 3-inch is for. Go big or go home, right? So I've got a 3/4 ounce steel, and you may sit there and think, well, man, look here. You got a 3/4 ounce steel in a Fiocchi hull that's already available. We're shooting that now. We're killing stuff with it. Well, you're right, but that load's not going 1,550 feet per second, right? So we're extending the range a little bit, right? So I have 3/4 ounce steel in Cheddite hull, a Fiocchi hull, Winchester AA hull. Yes, there's a 3-inch Winchester AA HS hull. Also in a Cheddite. Did I say Cheddite? Oh, Remington Black Cloud. You're going to have, so listen, if you're shooting or you've shot any of those factory ammo 3-inch shells, I hope you picked them up. And if you didn't, you better go pick them up, because they're going to be useful, right? There are some 3-inch stock shells that are available. There's Cheddites that are available. There's Fiocchis that are available. But if you're shooting some of this stuff out in the field, or if you've got buddies that are, pick their stuff up, right? So we're going to have that. Now, we're also going to have a 7/8 ounce steel. I've mentioned that a few times on these videos last year, but now that I've got Bruce for testing, we're going to have a 7/8 ounce steel, and this thing is moving over 1,400 feet per second. And yes, it's gonna be a tested good load. To me, it almost boggles my mind thinking that we can get 28 gauge 3/4 ounce of steel running 1,550 feet per second, but it does. We've got the bismuth. I'm probably going to start working on a buffered bismuth load. Look, guys, I could probably make 1.25 ounces, or maybe more than that. An ounce, probably 1.25 ounces bismuth load in the 3-inch. I just don't know if that's what people are looking for. And here's why I say this. I looked at what it costs to put a bismuth shell together, and I don't get into real big details, but a 3-inch 1 16th ounce bismuth shell with new hulls. If you don't have the hulls and you buy new Fiocchi hulls or new Cheddite hulls, and you add all the components together, it's about $41 a box for 25 of them, right? Man, that's expensive. It's approaching what it costs to load a TSS duplex. Now, if you have once fired hulls and you already have the hulls, now the cost goes down a good bit to like $36 or something like that, because the hull is 22 cents every time you pull the trigger if it's a new hull, right? Now, steel shot. This is where the 3/4 ounce steel is going to come in, I think, dramatically, especially for the folks out in California and anywhere else where steel is mandated, or I'm sorry, non-toxic is mandated. You're going to be able to load a 3-inch steel load if you already have the hulls for about $11 for a box of 25. Trust me, you cannot buy it for that, right? It's actually, that's probably a third of what factory ammunition costs. And by the way, it's much better, because number one, I developed it, and number two, you loaded it. So you know it's going to be better, right? So steel's going to have a place. I'm going to be working on some lead, and I may do. I'm gonna work on one thing that I'm excited about doing is a buffered lead turkey load. Not everywhere is gone non-toxic. And there are people that would love to kill a turkey with their 28 gauge and not have to spend $6 a shell. I mean, I don't want to spend $6 a shell. That's kind of why I'm doing it. Will TSS whack them out there at 40 yards? Yep. But number 6 nickel plated with a nice buffered load, 1 1/4 ounce. That's what I'm looking at right now, is about a 1 1/4 ounce buffered number 6 load, and really create us a nice pattern for turkeys. Say, you know, I'm hoping we can get this stuff where it'll pattern out to 40. We're probably going to be stuck closer to 30, but that's fine. I think people that want to use these sub gauges, and the reason they do it is because they want the challenge of getting that bird in close. I mean, that's why I hunt elk with a bow and arrow. I want him in there less than 50. You see what I'm saying? Versus rifle hunters who crack them at 600 yards. So I think there's enough people out there that would like that. And by the way, number 6 nickel plated lead buffered out will kill you a pheasant probably as far as you want to. So I think that'll be a fun load. And if you got anything else that you guys want loaded up, man, put it in the comments and say, hey, I'd like to see this in a 3-inch. I'd like to see that. Now, another thing too, and I hate to get onto a rant, but this is kind of like my development season, where I start getting into this stuff. I have a little bit of free time between my normal work. Hunting season's over. So there's a camouflage gun back here. It's a new one. It's a 20 gauge, right? We're going to start looking at 20 gauge stuff. I get tons of emails about, hey man, are you ever going to do this in 20 gauge? Are you ever going to do 20 gauge? And for whatever reason, I just never looked into 20 gauge. Never even, I just assumed that, hey man, that's a real popular gauge. There'll be tons of data out there for people. But for whatever reason, I mean, there might be a ton of data, but people are looking for more. So why not go ahead and build some 20 gauge stuff and see what we can do with it. Especially, I'm excited with steel loads, duplex loads. I think a lot of people underestimate steel. When I get some of this data back and some patterns done, I'm gonna show you a video. Again, it's gonna be crappy. But the first morning in Texas, I hunted with 7/8 ounce of number 5 steel. And let me tell you something, it was whacking birds, 35, 40 yards. I mean, I loaded it up. That was the only thing I had with me. And I said, these birds are gonna have to be in here for me to, you know, to put this at work, right? And what I was finding out is, man, you hit it right. It was swamped. It was done, right? So that's a neat one, right? So anyway, sorry for the rant. It's good to be back kind of in the swing of things with this stuff. We're going to have a lot more content. If you need any 3-inch hulls, I have some on the website, bullet225ho.com. Obviously, that's where the data is to get the data for these loads. And thank y'all for watching, and we'll see you next time.